the magical world of colour box miniatures. It would be difficult to imagine any more inspiring scenery in which an artist could develop his talents. This is the world of Peter Fagan, a world where he came to live over 20 years ago, when he found the tranquility of the countryside and the warmth of a small Scottish border town just too good to leave. In Lauder, he made his name.
I've been making miniatures 20 years. I started really by accident because I moved from the rat race some 20 years ago to Scotland. I had no work and I had to think of some way of earning a living. I saw some models in a gift shop. I thought, I know how to make those. And I started making them and putting them in the suitcase and taking them around the local shops and building up my business that way. Eventually ending up with, I think, about 6 people working in the house. In fact, our first office was under the stairs. So the business grew from that. I remember borrowing. I had very great difficulty in the beginning and borrowing the dentist's drill. I went to have my teeth done and had talking to the dentist, and he said, well, I have this dental drill you could have, and I walked out of the dentist with the dental drill, which was a great boon to my company.
That decision, all those years ago, was to lead to the development of a business that has become the livelihood for hundreds of Borders people and the delight of thousands of collectors from almost every country in the world. From this beautiful and peaceful scenery came the inspiration for a company that is different, unique in its foundation and inception, a business built upon the creative talent and infinite energy of one man who never really had time to grow up, who shunned the established path of company development, who ignored advice from those who said they knew better, and who conquered all doubts to follow his instincts, who created his own family company, which he now shares with everyone who enters the magical world of colour box miniatures. Peter is a sculptor, and he creates every piece in the colour box collection himself. What medium does Peter use for his original sculptures?
I started in plasticine and I still work in plasticine. Probably the only decent school report I had was that he's good with plasticine, so I took notice of that, and I've worked in plasticine ever since. It's just that I feel very comfortable with that as a medium.
How does Peter develop his initial ideas into a complete collection?
The ideas come from the collection that both Francis and I have built up of toys. We collect lots of old toys, many old toys, miniatures, and out of those comes a form of play. We tell stories to each other. They become characters, they become real. And Francis is very much the storyteller in many ways, and I'm the illustrator. And Lucy plays a big part in this because she plays a great part she plays with the toys that we have. She involves herself in the stories, and I suppose the whole family in a way is involved in building up the inspiration of that collection because they're all based on reality, a reality of an existing toy. Often the stories are correct too, and they've come to us with a story. But if they don't come to us with a story, they soon get a story.
His childlike sense of humour shows through in his work as he creates familiar scenes from his own childhood days, his pets, and his large collection of toys and antique teddy bears, which he shares with his wife Frances in their home. Peter and Frances work together to develop the colour box collections. They plan what Peter is to model, and are always together to decide on what new old bear or toy needs to be adopted. Francis writes all the stories that accompany each miniature. The colour box collections are personal to Peter and Francis, and this personal involvement in the inspiration and creation of each piece is what they like to share with their collectors.
I dropped a penny like that into the slot and started the music going.
1993 was the 10th anniversary of Colourbox, and Francis planned a terrific celebration. Working in conjunction with a London auction room, Christie's, Colourbox put together 30 special lots to be included in the pre-Christmas teddy bear sale. All the Colourbox lots were sold for charity, and the Child Accident Prevention Trust was to be the beneficiary. The entire Colourbox Collectors Club were invited, and altogether 2,000 Colourbox Club members attended the promotion, which began in Harrods of Knightsbridge, where Peter signed for collectors. Then on to the viewing of the sale, and the very exciting sale itself.
Anybody else in the room? At £40,000 I'm selling to the 42,000. 42,000. 45,000, thank you. £45,000, anybody else? Last time, 45,000, only at 45,000. Thank you.
How many years have you been the commissioner at Harrods?
36 and a half years.
That's a long
Going
time.
on to 37 now.
And how were you flattered when you discovered Colourbox had made a commissioner bear?
Yes, well, I was very honoured. I had lost my hat and had to get another new hat because my hat was taken to be donated here, but they gave me another hat, so I'm very honoured that the bears got my hat.
What do you think of all the teddy bear sales?
It's been quite interesting because it's a change from working with pictures and furniture, which we usually do, to working with teddy bears. It's been quite good fun.
And what about the number of people who've come? Is this better than average?
It's been very busy. We were open on Saturday, and it was a lot of interest. It was really busy.
I believe SOP was going to have a solo flight soon. First of all, from the navigator's point of view, any tips for him?
Well, the primary tip must be don't get lost.
And from the pilot?
Obviously, don't crash, and many happy landings, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please, first of all, tell me what Huglets is.
Well, it's a company that does quite a lot of things to do with teddy bears. They organise festivals, they publish the UK Teddy Bear Guide, and they publish Huglets Teddy Bear magazine, and I edit Huglets Teddy Bear magazine.
And how long have you been a teddy bear enthusiast?
20 years maybe, if not longer.
And do you have some of the Colourbox collection at home?
I have quite a number, and enough to have lost count of how many I've got.
And I think you're hugging a personal favourite. Who's
Yes,
this?
this is Captain Arthur Crown. He's very special.
And will you be bidding tonight?
Yes, I will, for some of the Colourbox lots, and also maybe for one bear.
This is Frances Sadler, who dressed the Baden-Powell bears. Could you tell me, Frances, how did that come about?
I went to an open evening Francis and Peter had at one of our local shops, and we had a very good night there, and we were talking about bears, and they said they needed somebody to dress for bears. And being as I had a connection with scouting and guiding, I agreed to do it for them. So they sent the bears down to me, and I dressed them, sent the bears back, and then they asked me to come along today.
Lot 240 is the auction. Come in the scene for £100. And 110, 20, 30, 40, 150, 60, 70, 80, 190, 200, 20, 40, 260, 280, 320, 350, 80, 420, 450, 480, 500. Ladies put 500 coming in, sir? 550, 600, 600, 650, 650 at the table now, 700 for you, sir. 750, 750 at the table, 800, 850, 850 going to 900, 950, 950 going to now, 950 here, 950 here, at 950 anybody else? At £950, if you're all finished at 950. 40 Michael, 950.
Well, hello, Peter. How far have you come for the show?
About 12,000 miles.
My goodness, that's a long way. Have you been a Colourbox collector for long?
About 2.5 years, but we distribute Colourbox in Australia as well. And we didn't plan to become collectors, but because of the type of product it is, you can't help yourself. You have to become a collector.
Did you buy anything tonight?
Is this public? Don't tell my wife. I bought some Chiltern bears, lot number 96 for a few £100. And then I've forgotten the lot number. I've got number 7 or 8 of the auction room. About £900 I paid for it. But we're going to use that in Sydney for the exhibition at Darling Harbour, which is a beautiful, like the old Crystal Palace in London, built right on the water. And that's where we'll be in the next trade fair. And then it'll probably sneak into my lounge room, I think.
This is the Hickey family, who I believe are happy collectors. What did you buy today?
We bought 2 auctioneers, the festive season and the Humpty Dumptys.
Why 2 auction rooms?
So we can have one each. Because we all collect. All of us collect.
All of you collect?
Yes.
Do you have a special favourite?
Bruno Bear. So I collect teddies.
And what about you?
I just collect and I put them all in boxes and hide them under the bed, so I don't know what I've got.
He collects all the teddy bears, I collect all the teddy bears. And she has teddy bears and dogs. And cats collection.
So you basically cover it all?
Almost, yeah.
And now you've even got Humpty Dumpty. I think you're unique in that.
I think so, yeah. And it's lovely to have a piece of Peter's early work.
So you've enjoyed this evening?
I have. It was absolutely brilliant, very worthwhile.
This is the Marks family, who've other successful buyers. What did you buy?
Busy Lizzie.
And what's the story behind Busy Lizzie?
Well, I believe it was made by one of the workers at Colour Box. It was knitted as a small bear like this, and Peter made just one small miniature, but there was some problem with the moulding on it, and so it is a one-off bear that we've actually bought.
Was this what you intended to buy?
No, we came actually at the hope of buying an auction ring, but they're far too expensive, and he just got carried away on the Busy Lizzie.
At least you know you've got a unique piece.
Well, the girls are happy anyway. It'll just have to be bread and jam for Christmas dinner.
It was altogether a fantastic success. Everyone enjoyed themselves, even if they didn't make a special purchase. But best of all, Colour Box raised £16,000 on the day of the sale and continued fundraising for the Child Accident Prevention Trust, reaching a total of £23,076.
How do you feel tonight went?
Well, it went very well. I think probably raised over £10,000 per caps at this sale, and that's, I think, a really good thing to have done.
Was it strange, instead of buying, selling?
Oh. Absolutely, yes.
It was terrifying, I think.
Did you have to sit in his hands for him, Francis?
Well, in the first part of the sale, I had to nudge him a couple of times, but the second part of the sale, we were probably more nervous than anybody else in the room, I think.
Do you think this is a fitting culmination to 10 years of Colour Box?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
One Colour Box bear has a very special story. Sopwith came to Peter and Francis with a fascinating history. He was a mascot in the First World War. He came with photographs of his original owner, Flight Lieutenant Turnbull. Sopwith's last recorded flight was in 1917, and so 1992 marked the 75th anniversary of that day. Once again, Francis planned a celebration, and the Royal Air Force were drawn in to let Sopwith fly an F-3 Tornado jet in celebration of his 75 years, and to raise money for the Edinburgh Hospital for Sick Children. Having received his wings from Treble 1 Squadron at RAF Leuchars, Sopwith was ready to fly solo. His air yards were all sponsored for charity.
Right. Well, it's an SE-5A from the First World War. It's decked out in it's an American squadron colours. It weighs 14 pounds and it has a 30cc glow motor in it. So what we're going to do now, we'll get it started up and then hopefully we'll climb up, okay?
just the right size for Sopwith to pilot on his maiden flight, and once again, Treble One were the hosts. He took off from the same runway where he had flown the Tornado, and, despite the gale blowing, he even managed to loop the loop. It was a celebration that everyone enjoyed, from the ground crew to the guests. And his flight was sponsored. Once again, Colourbox made a donation to charity, and on this occasion, it was the Children's Hospice Association for Scotland.
The Children's Hospice Association Scotland has been fundraising now for just over 2 years with a target of £10 million to build, equip and run Scotland's first children's hospice. The targets achieved so far is 6.6 million, so we're well on the way, but as you can appreciate, 10 million is still quite a long way ahead of us. That will allow us to build the first, hopefully the first of 3. We would like to see the doors opened in January 1996, and things are sort of rushing ahead and we should be there very soon.
A very special cake was made, which was almost too good to eat.
Okay, Sopwith, congratulations. I think you've gone solo and you've done exceptionally well today. Let's just run through the debrief of what happened then. The whole aim today was to get you airborne, to get you solo. Tick that. Happy. The plan, well, the plan was devised by Ingrid and Francis, so you'll have to, if you've got any problems with that, take it up with them. Personally, I didn't see anything wrong with it though. The actual AirX, the flying bit, definitely covered, straight and level, turning left, turning right. Very impressed by the loop to the loop. But don't get too cocky, we don't want you overdoing it. And as for the recovery, well, all I can say is you landed safely, didn't crash, that goes into the safety bit. Down without crashing, no problems with the safety. So, all in all then, Sopwith, I see ticks up there. All we've got to work on is the takeoff technique. Anything from you? Good, pleased about that.
Peter and Francis, together with many of the Colourbox bears, are meeting collectors at an in-store promotion at Caithness Glass in Jenners, one of Scotland's most prestigious stores in Princes Street. At the promotion, children learn to paint their own miniatures with the help of Joan Walker Alton, whose patience and skill bring a little extra magic to these happy collectors' day out.
How long have you been a Colourbox collector then?
I started last year, sometime like this time last year, and then when we saw the things that you could send away to try and get in the club with in like the shops and that, we got one of those was sent away, and I got my first magazine about this time last year.
Oh, that's good. So is it teddy bears you collect, or is it cats?
All of them, a bit of all of them.
Oh,
really.
that's good. Have you got a favourite piece?
No, all of them really.
I like that. I'll put that, put a lid on that, because that's nasty paint if it gets filled. Right, what colour are you going to do yours then?
Peter will sign pieces for collectors wherever and whenever he is asked. Even if a promotion goes on longer than it's meant to, he will not leave until the very last collector is satisfied. It is hard work, but Peter says it's the part of his job that he enjoys most.
It's not far. Near the Falls Bridge.
It's not where I come from right now. I'm from Portmallinshire.
Are you?
Yes, stayed in
Do you
the
collect these? So how do you spell your name? J?
What is your position in Colourbox?
I'm the Collectors Club manager, so I'm responsible for the Collectors Club and trying to keep all the members happy, making sure they've got everything they want. If they have any problems or queries, I hope they'll let me know.
They also send us lots of lovely letters, so I hope they'll keep those coming too. When somebody joins the club, firstly we send them a literature pack which contains the latest magazine and posters which show the whole ranges available. They also received a special club joining model which we personalise by putting their name on it so that it's very personal to them. Each year it changes. This year it's called Opening Night. They receive a magazine once every quarter which keeps them up to date with everything that's going on, all the new ranges, plus all the charity events and everything that we do here at Colourbox.
If you visit the Colourbox studios in Lauder, you will be surprised at just how busy everyone is.
Good morning, Bronze Age. How may I help? Yeah, I'll put you through to someone, please.
What role does Frances play within Colourbox?
Well, I suppose my major involvement with the company is that I'm married to Peter Fagan, so I think a lot of the work that I do takes place at home and in the car on the way in and out of work, as much as it does at my desk. I'm the marketing director for Colourbox Miniatures, so technically my job is to oversee the whole of the marketing of the company's products, and that's right from start to finish. Within Colourbox, we see the three departments of sales, design and marketing as really one. Marketing, if you like, is the cement that holds the sales and the design and the marketing departments together. And from our point of view, we like to see ourselves as a marketing-led company. So part of my role is to oversee my department, all the managers who look after the independent projects, and to make sure that the project manager itself is operating well. That's a computer system which helps us keep track of all the projects that we run. I also have to be creative and come up with some of the ideas that make Colourbox that little bit more exciting than a lot of our competitors. We do all sorts of crazy things. After all, the teddy bears and the other plush toys live with Peter and I in our house, and I suppose I get to know them almost like members of the family. And the more you get to know them, and the more you play with them, and the more Peter and I have fun at home, the more we are able to develop the promotions and the stories together. So when I'm not in the office and when I'm not trying to make head or tail of a computer program or being an awful bossy boots with the rest of my staff, I'm sitting around pushing a pencil, writing the stories which go with the products. So all the little stories you read in the boxes do eventually come from my desk or from my rather strange imagination, from the games and things which Peter and I play together. So we do have some fun with it. My job is also to start off some of the major promotions. We like to get out and about in the world, and we like to use our retailer base, and we like to appear in our retailer base as much as we can, using our retailers to get to our collectors. And we also attend a lot of shows, teddy bear fairs, cat events, and so on, so that we get to as many people as we can. And one way we've recently been able to do this, and to do some very good work on the side, is with some of our charity promotions. We've been presenting some very big cheques to some national charities and also some smaller but significant sums to local charities. And from the Colourbox point of view, we find that a very important part of our programme. Peter and I are philanthropic in our views towards business. We have a very important, very big, very profitable company. We would like to use some of our talent and energy and enthusiasm for the things that we make to do just a little bit of good in the world. So we have done a lot with some of the bigger charities that you will have heard of, but we're just as importantly interested in what goes on down the road with the local brownie pack. So we like to keep in touch with all our Collectors Club members who tell us what they're doing and ask us for help. And we do our best to be as generous as we can possibly afford to be. And of course it gets us out and about and does help to get us some coverage in the media too, which is always a useful spin-off for that kind of thing. But it's the work I enjoy the most, and I suppose I'm privileged and very lucky to spend my professional life doing exactly what I would do as a hobby. So thank you, collectors, because you're keeping me well behind the desk I enjoy being behind the most.
From these small studios and factory units, the Colourbox workforce produce about 80,000 miniature figurines every week.
And once we've actually done that, same process.
The collectors' tours take interested visitors into every department of production, beginning with mould making, where Peter's original plasticine models are first converted into master sculptures.
So it's a matter of using the rubber to resize that. It's a matter of filling the actual mould, well, the actual box with silicone rubber and catalyst. Once you've actually done that, it's a matter of vacuuming the actual piece to take the air and other properties out of the rubber. After that, it goes on to a shelf.
When the moulds are ready, they are filled with Peter's own secret recipe to create the first whiteware figurines. When they are removed from the moulds, the bases are still rough and must be ground flat. A very skilled job that necessitates careful handling and concentration. The circular sanders are dangerous to use. One slip, and the workers could give themselves a serious manicure. Once the bases are flat, each tiny figurine is carefully examined, and any tiny flaws are removed by using fine dental burrs. The fettlers have to know the pieces intimately so that they do not remove any of Peter's original detail. After the surface of each piece has been finally prepared, the plain whiteware figurines are ready to be hand-painted.
Everything is made out of plasticine, even the bricks. Each individual brick is made in this. It's one complete mould, and one bear gets glued on at the end, various paraffin.
In the cupboard here we have all the masters. These are masters that are sent up from Terry, who works very closely with Peter. She will paint a master, and they get sent up here from the master. We will paint samples which we give to the outworkers for their copy at home, along with an instruction sheet, paints, brushes, thinners.
Well, I've worked with Peter for such a long time now that I instinctively know how we'd like each piece to be painted. We have a palette of about 150 colours, of which I can choose any. And if I feel that I need a new colour, I can create a colour which will then become one of our colours if Peter approves it. I like all new pieces that Peter produces. I get really excited when the new whiteware comes, when I see a piece for the first time.
Most of Peter's hand painters are women who work at home, combining their painting with other jobs or family life. In the springtime, more organisation than usual is needed because many of the painters also live on local farms, and lambing time can interfere with a painter's daily routine. Every hand painter must undergo a training programme, and they come to Lauder, where they learn their skills in the paint training department under the watchful eyes of Peter's training supervisors.
Well, Terry!
The paint trainers too must learn new skills. And every time a new sculpture is produced, everyone must start again to make sure it looks exactly like Peter's original approved master.
Blue and white rather than green and white.
Yes.
So if you could have a go at that, that would be great. Okay.
And would you like her to stay brown?
Yes.
The design studio's own graphic artist, Linda Lovett, uses other items in Peter's antique toy collection to create the images for the box and leaflet designs. Hours and hours of intense work must be completed before the collection truly comes to life.
Well, I've actually designed all the boxes for the range. These are the boxes that we've just had back. They've just been printed and they look quite nice. I got to the images of these by producing some worksheets and then throwing around the ideas, talking to people and seeing what each people liked. Some different bit of this and a different bit of this kind of design over here, and at the end we decided on the colours and the layout, and they've finally been printed now and they look quite nice. But at the moment I've moved on to doing some images for the licensing products. I'm using a kind of a more illustrative, fluent style, because I feel as though the product is a very magical, mysterious kind of range, and I wanted to try and get that over in the illustrations. So I've created this kind of very fluent, kind of not too tight illustration. We feel as though illustration would have been better rather than a photograph.
With so much time spent drawing individual characters, does Linda develop any favourites?
Well, they're all very nice characters. They're all great fun, but I think I've got a favourite, and that has to be Sam the monkey, because he's got a really sweet little face, and I just really given him a few cuddles when I was drawing him, so he was really nice. But I think the mice as well, they're just great fun because they're like little jewel-like little images that you can do with little bright clothes on, and they're all different movements, and they've got characters as well in themselves, all got names. So the mice, I think, would have to be the overall favourites because they're so magical.
We open in the untouched attic room, piled with junk and leftovers, with a scattering of toys that have been abandoned by children, long since grown up and gone. In the corner stands a strange and rare musical machine. It is a polyphone, a Victorian musical box which plays a pennyworth of music if a coin is dropped in the slot. On the top of the polyphone is an inquisitive mouse, ready to conduct the orchestra if only someone could reach the slot with a penny. One smiling face in all the gloomy darkness. Seated on a pile of spell books is the mystical and somewhat sinister character of Jangles, the jester. It only takes the smallest hint of imagination to hear the penny drop, and the music begins. Where is Pennywhistle Lane?
This is number 1 Pennywhistle Lane. This is where I live. This is the bedroom. This is the attic. This is the roof. We live in the Northumberland on the Scottish border, and these are the kind of roofs we have. It's also a bit old and tatty, as you can see, a bit like me really, but there you go. And this is the inside of the attic, and this is the inside of the bedroom. This is the beginning of the house. You can see some of the furniture that we put together, which all fits in. But this is 12th scale. It's the same scale as everything else that I make, within reason. So anything that I've made will fit. Just from here, the kitchen will be built. And from here will be the living room. Then we will move into the garden. Then we will move next door and gradually build Pennywhistle Road. But basically it's to try and build an environment for all the figures and figurines that I produce. To try and allow people to build using the things that I've created, perhaps to build their own house in some ways, to put in their own things in here, to pick the pieces that they like, to make their own individual little house. There's no set place for anything that is produced. They can put it where they like. I mean, they can confine things to the attic. They could put the Christmas tree in here when it's Christmas made. It would mean that every house, for instance, that people put together could be different. People have different collections. It gives them a basis. It gives them perhaps a place to display them. They can change them round. They can put different things in. They can make the thing how they want it.
At the end of every tour, collectors meet members of the Colourbox staff. Occasionally, Peter and Francis are in the factory, and they will join the group as well. And Peter will be signing once again.
Thank you very much for coming. I think a lot of you have come a long way, haven't you? A bit of travelling going on.
Where are you from then? Where are you from?
Annie.
Oh, that's
down the road about an hour and a half.
Yes, about an hour and a half.
Where are you from?
Linlithgow.
Linlithgow.
Oh, that's a bit further away. And all the seams were all lined and bound, and she had to unpick all that lot to get it all sorted out. He's made from a cloak which I was given when I was a student. I used to be a student and a drama student years ago. And I was given this.
It was really interesting seeing where all the bears were painted, and seeing the amount of detail in those. I mean, I think that's the most interesting part, to see, you know, how much detail goes into the painting of them.
It's my birthday, and Peter gave me a free piece and signed it for me.
I think seeing the figures coming out of the moulds, it reminded me of trying it when I was a boy, and it never seemed to work for me. I was really impressed the way they all came out correct. Yes.
Well, hearing about the history of the bears from Peter and Frances is interesting. And I mean, I've enjoyed seeing my daughter's reaction, you know, to the bears, because she's obviously excited by it all. And, you know, that part of it, I think, is special for me, to see her enjoyment.
Well, Paul, my fiance, is here for a year working, and so I came over for 2 months, and we're up on our way through to Edinburgh, and it was a perfect opportunity to stop off at Lauder to check out Colourbox.
Every Colourbox miniature is examined for quality when the outworkers bring in their trays for checking. Then it's off to the boxing department in another building at the other end of Lauder High Street, where they are boxed and story leaflets added, ready to dispatch to retailers all over the world.